So in terms of in the United States, we've had yet another stimulus check is going to hit the balance sheets of some people. Some lucky Americans get a $1,400 check. And again, what we've pointed out over the past few years is it's emerging more and more that Bitcoin is taking the place of what the gold vigilantes or the bond vigilantes used to be. The gold bugs and the bond vigilantes used to keep the government honest, used to keep the government from spending too much. They've been basically tamed by various techniques from the Federal Reserve and the central banks and the Treasury. But Bitcoin is free market, and Bitcoin retakes $50,000 as another round of U.S. stimulus checks to bring new ammunition for retail investors.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up again because it's so important. When you have a government that's able to print money willy-nilly, without end, without any accountability whatsoever, you need some market reaction. And that used to be in the form of the bond market vigilantes that would, oh my gosh, they're printing too much money, we're going to drop bonds. Or the gold bugs would say, oh my gosh, gold's going to go higher because the government's out of control. But both of those two have been euthanized. You don't have bond vigilantes or gold vigilantes anymore. But Bitcoin is immortal. Bitcoin is unconfiscatable, and nobody's going to tell Bitcoin what to do. Bitcoin is saying, you know what, this money printing's out of control, and we're going a lot higher.
It speaks truth to power, and we don't have that anymore. We don't have that in the media. In mainstream media, the cable news does not hold truth to power. They don't challenge them. This is the only thing challenging power. It's a check on unlimited power, and it's important for any system to have that, and this is good that it has it. Now, we have our first major institutional player getting involved in Bitcoin from Scandinavia, and it makes sense that it would obviously be from Norway because Norway has an abundant supply of energy and oil wealth. So amazing to see a 180-year-old Norwegian energy engineering company with, krona, 7.25 billion, adding 1,170 Bitcoin to its treasury, arguing for a future where Bitcoin helps meet global climate targets, investing in green Bitcoin mining to help decarbonize global energy systems. And she in particular highlights one paragraph from this letter from Aker. They have formed a new division called CT, which is investing in Bitcoin. And I think this is important for the audience to hear. CT will establish mining operations that transfer stranded or intermittent electricity without stable demand locally, wind, solar, hydropower, to economic assets that can be used anywhere. Bitcoin is, in our eyes, a load balancing economic battery, and batteries are essential to the energy transition required to reach the targets of the Paris Agreement. Our ambition is to be a valuable partner in new renewable projects. Third, we will build and invest in projects and companies in Bitcoin's ecosystem.
Right. It's a remarkable statement because already 30% of the energy required in the Bitcoin network is renewable. And now this just makes it that much more percentage of the total power. And it's heading toward 100% renewable energy because solar, wind, and renewables are now the cheapest forms of energy. And that's the main component in pricing Bitcoin mining is the energy source. And the fact that they're into doing this in Norway speaks to the fact that Bitcoin is a Tier 1 asset. It's a global reserve asset. It's replacing other Tier 1 global reserve assets, and there are only two. One is a U.S. Treasury note. The other is gold. And the U.S. Treasury note is under severe stress because of the policies in Washington are essentially euthanizing the U.S. dollar. And gold is being demonetized because Bitcoin does everything gold could do, but much, much better. Also, the language in that statement ripped right from Michael Saylor over at MicroStrategy, his playbook that he shared with CEOs just a few weeks ago in a big conference down in Miami. That has now filtered to the board level of all these corporations. I've got to believe that in the second quarter of 2021, we're going to have maybe hundreds of these similar announcements, and that's how you get to Bitcoin 220,000 in 2021.
So this really responds to the FUD being put out by the mainstream media, the likes of the BBC, the likes of Newsweek and Time and Bloomberg are keep on saying that Bitcoin is going to boil the oceans. And here is a company, a 180-year-old Norwegian energy engineering company who knows about engineering, knows about energy, understands this stuff. And I think you had said 30% of Bitcoin mining comes from renewable energies. Many firms put it at 70% or over. So there's about 30% left that could still be converted to renewable, right? So here they're saying, like, this is like human ingenuity that Paul Tudor Jones was talking about. Here, this guy is talking about the concept of stranded energy, and that's what we've talked about here. And nobody on Bloomberg, nobody on the BBC talks about stranded energy. The stranded energy is energy that is available in places like Siberia, places like remote West Texas, complete desert, other than the fact that it has a lot of solar and a lot of wind, and it could power up things like this. So what they're saying is stranded energy, it's energy available, it's being produced out there. Use it you convert it to economic energy instead, a monetary unit of account that then can be transferred elsewhere. So it's that sort of cycle, the human ingenuity that Paul Tudor Jones said when he bet on Bitcoin as a bet on the future of humanity.
Of course, Norway also has one of the biggest, if not the biggest, sovereign wealth fund. We had news last week that the Singapore Sovereign Wealth Fund is now getting involved in Bitcoin. Norway is huge, Qatar, huge. And similarly, these energy-rich companies or countries like Norway, they start thinking about stranded energy and how to convert flaring gas, countries like Nigeria, into Bitcoin mining, the hardest known money ever in the history of human beings. And, that's why we've been talking about it in terms of being a renaissance and a revolution, because we haven't had a change in basement layer money on planet Earth for humans in 5,000 years.
Right. And of course, I believe it is the Norway Sovereign Wealth Fund, which has over $1 trillion that they are invested in MicroStrategy. So they do indeed already own Bitcoin in the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund. So yeah, this is the future. And these are the facts. These are the sort of people that Max and Stacy and Keiser Report cover and look at. These are the thinkers that, you could listen to us, and we're reading people who have a 180-year-old Norwegian energy engineering company, or you can listen to a presenter on Bloomberg who talks to somebody that is a no-coiner like Nouriel Roubini, who says, that they're going to boil the oceans without any facts. They don't actually have it's not like they back their information with data. It's not like they say, well, we know for a fact that it emitted this many tons of carbon to produce these Bitcoin, but they don't have that. The data is here, and that is showing that you're providing energy efficiency and capturing stranded energy, which is something that is human ingenuity. That is how you grow an economy. That is how you become more efficient as an economy. That is capitalism.
Yeah, that is capitalism. And if you have the hardest money ever known in the history of humans as the base layer of your entrepreneurial capitalist model, you have a demonetization of war and violence, and you have a new monetization of peace and love. And that's also a hugely profound change in our experience here on planet Earth, and it's coming right now.
By the way, because it is getting very, very warm here in the subtropics of North Carolina, you might start hearing some birds going crazy as spring arrives, and they, I can hear them off camera, chattering, like screaming at the top of their lungs.
They're excited because their environment's going to get better now. We've taken carbon out of the environment because of Bitcoin is saving the birds, saving the ecosystem, saving all the wildlife, saving humans. Without Bitcoin, there's a high possibility humans would have become extinct in the next 50 years. Because we have Bitcoin, we will make it forward. So thank Satoshi.